Thank you so much for your time to be interviewed with the Indian Sun. Really happy to talk to you. I've been reading about you, watching you on television.
Oh
I'm
well, I'm just that's all a bit of a shock to me as well. So
really,
um, yeah, because normally I don't. I'm not really a public figure. Normally,
yes,
my work is confidential or not very interesting. So I just do my work quietly. So this was
yeah,
I think it's the first time
yeah,
anyone really knew what I do. So it's a bit of a shock for me.
yeah.
Look, I've
No.
even got my Australia India badge on. There we go.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there it
Okay.
is. Yeah, my
Oh, that's nice. You
look
would
at
have,
that.
yeah, I know you would have been really, overwhelmed by the presence of the media because, India has hundreds and hundreds of print and television. And by surrounded by all that, did you think this is too much of a limelight for you?
I was firstly, I didn't know they were there.
Hmm.
So when I first arrived, I didn't even notice that there was like hundreds of media
Hmm.
behind up on the mountain.
Hmm.
So no, I wasn't freaked out by the media,
Yeah.
and I was happy to talk to them. And actually, they sort of became a bit like my friends.
When did you realize that you've become really famous?
When I came out of the mountains
Yeah.
and I got down to Delhi,
Yeah.
and I couldn't walk in the street and I couldn't be in the hotel. So
Yeah.
then I was like, it was like I was a media star or something, and I I've never suffered that before,
Yeah.
and it was a really big surprise, and I couldn't get from my hotel room even to the breakfast place, so I had to go and stay at a person's house
Uh,
and kind of hide. Um, not I was
Really?
very tired as well
I know,
because
I know. It would have
yeah,
been, yeah. That it would have been exhausting. I mean, to handle both the operation and the limelight, all
yeah,
together. But anyway,
yeah,
it's so interesting though, from, sort of a very, what do you call, not really nondescript, but yes, a very quiet lifestyle to suddenly
yeah,
being under the gaze of the world.
yeah.
But anyway, you've in the process won this title of India's tunnel rescue hero. I know
Have
you.
I
Yeah,
really? I didn't. I didn't know that. So,
yeah,
I if you tell me it might be true, but maybe it's just I became the face of the rescue
yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't. It's not like I did it all by myself.
I know, I know,
And
I know there was a team, but of course, but you were the one of the brains behind it. So,
yeah,
and as a result of that, all this adulation and talk,
yeah.
etc. But I know you've had many career highlights, but was this operation one of your highlights as well?
Oh, it is the highlight.
Okay.
I actually don't know what to do now
Mm,
because normally when we have a problem underground,
mm,
everyone dies.
mm.
Like it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And so normally my job is what can we learn from it? How can we make sure that it doesn't happen again?
Mm,
Uh, and how can we make sure that our people who are doing the, say, recovering bodies or whatever, how can we make sure we don't get hurt?
mm,
But but this was different because no one, no one was dead,
mm.
and we were faced with a huge challenge because we also knew that at any moment there could be further collapse.
Mm,
And yet I felt great confidence that if we could just like take a breath
mm,
and approach this in a calm way and professional way, we would be able to rescue everybody and not hurt anyone.
mm.
And I've never felt that before. And yet that's how I felt about it. And I think that was one of the reasons if you like, as a face of what was going on, people found it interesting to talk to me because I think I conveyed my sense of purpose and confidence that we could do this.
Mm.
Perhaps what I wasn't saying was I didn't know how. Like I actually didn't know how, and so every day, or in fact every hour, we would learn something else we shouldn't do. Like because
Yeah.
nothing was working,
Yes.
Everything was failing. Like it wasn't a good hair day any day. Every day the machines were breaking, the rocks were collapsing, the no, things were pretty grim. And
Mm.
yet I felt that if we could just like focus,
Mm.
work, it sounds really odd, but work with a really pure heart.
Yeah.
Like our mission is clear. We're here to rescue 41 young men who've done nothing wrong
Mm.
and make sure that none of us get hurt in the process. And it worked.
Mm.
So yeah, it's the career highlight. I don't know what to do now. Like I've come home and I'm so excited and not excited. Actually, that's probably not the word either. I'm so content
Yeah.
with what's happened. It's
You,
like
you can
just a
probably write a
wonderful
book
thing.
on that.
Well, they want me.
Experience.
Yeah. I've been approached by a publisher to write a book, and
Yeah.
so maybe I'll agree to do that. I'm still thinking
Yeah.
about it because I've never thought of myself as an
Yeah.
author of a book
Yeah,
because
but that
I,
was so interesting. You can, because it was a 17-day ordeal, you can
yeah,
start from day one to, the last day, and with the precision of an engineer, which you
yeah,
are. So
yeah,
you can detail it and then add a bit of, all of that excitement or massage,
yeah,
they call in India, anyway. But
yeah.
this is so interesting, that you are part of this rescue mission. You volunteered to go there, isn't it? And it's so
No,
generous.
no, they contacted me. No,
Okay.
I was I'd been as just by chance I'd been
Yeah.
to Diwali
Yeah.
in Auckland in New Zealand,
Yeah.
and then I had to go from there to Germany, and then so I'd literally, I mean, literally, I was at Diwali watching everyone do their doing the Diwali thing,
Yeah.
and then I had my bags for the airport with me, so I popped in, watched a bit of the dancing, and then from there jumped in a taxi, went to the airport,
Mm.
and then by the time I was in Germany, I got my first phone call, and that was from the chief engineer of India, a guy called Rahul Gupta. And Rahul said to me, "Look, we've got a problem up in the Himalayas. We've had a collapse. We've got, I think at that stage it was 40 men. They thought there was 40 men trapped.
Mm.
But shortly it became 41. I don't know if that means someone had a baby or something, but anyway, no, it was 40. And he said, look, we've got a problem. This is what we've got. What do you think? And so we discussed some different things. And then he said, I'm going to go up by helicopter. I think it was that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he went up and had a look.
Mm.
And then by the time he'd been up and had a look and come back, because the telephones don't work so well up there, then by then I was in Ljubljana. So he rang me and he spoke to me about what he'd seen and the fact that they'd started work with, I think, an auger, a small auger, and he told me about how it was still collapsing. And he said to me, what do you think? And I said, well, and we shared some ideas. And then he introduced me to the secretary to the Prime Minister's, to the Prime Minister. And so he got on, it's like this, just like a Zoom meeting.
Mm.
And it's just like we're talking. It's not really complicated. It's just, what do you think? And I'm like, well, because I'm involved in disasters. And so I gave them some more thoughts. And then the secretary to the Prime Minister said, can you come? I was like, yeah, okay. And it was literally like that. Like there was never a description of what I would do.
It
There
was
was
all
never
it was all instantaneous, isn't it?
just, yeah, like that. And it may come as a surprise, or maybe it doesn't come as a surprise, but amongst us tunnel people,
Yeah.
we kind of all look after each other, and we're very professional, and professional means looking after each other. Like that's what we do. And so all it took was for them to say, can you come? And I was like, yeah, okay. So I was in Slovenia, and so it's a bit hard to get to Silkyara from Slovenia. So I had to get a flight from Ljubljana to Dubai to Mumbai to Delhi, Delhi to Derridin,
Yeah.
and then they had a helicopter waiting for me in Derridin, and that was really cool because
And,
like I get up, wow, they've got a
also,
helicopter.
but when you went there, it was so interesting for you to have traveled, nearly half the world and then reach Uttarakhand. And then when you reached over there, how did you and the rescue operation team, sort of start your mission?
So, firstly, the mission had started before I got there
Yeah.
because the decision had been made to start using an auger before I arrived. And when I arrived, and you might have seen the first thing I did was I went and knelt down at the little temple at the portal
Yes,
because
yes.
on my way, it's normal in our world, the world of the people who do the underground,
Mm.
to have little temples everywhere in the whole world. So
Oh,
it's not just an Indian thing. We all do it. So everywhere in the world where we're digging underground, we have a small shrine always because it's a funny tradition, but actually we're all pretty scared. And we know that we always get killed. Like
oh,
it's like it's
yeah.
not like so even though we're engineers and even though we've all studied and even though we're not planning to be killed and even though the way we build our tunnels now is really quite advanced and we're not intending to hurt anybody, we still take a moment before we go underground just to reflect because human beings are really fragile and it doesn't take very much to kill us. And so it's normal. It's just so here in Australia, we've got little shrines, all through Europe, little shrines. Of course, up in Uttarakhand, there was a little shrine and it had been pulled down the day before the collapse. And so when I read about that, actually, I was a bit upset that the little shrine had been pulled down by the construction company because it's not, you don't do that. Don't do that because
Yeah.
it's a sign of disrespect and it's also a sign of arrogance. And the one place that we know, the ones who build things underground, not to be arrogant is underground because life will be taken so quickly when you're underground.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I did, I got off the helicopter. I'd learnt about Kali on my
Yes.
way. So while I was flying there,
Yeah.
I'd been learning because I'm trying to understand because I'd read an article that the local priests were upset and believed that the local god, well, I can't remember exactly how to say his name, but was upset because the shrine had been pulled down. And I was like, well, if I was a local god, I'd be upset if my shrine was pulled down. And it's so while I was flying there, the little shrine was put back or a new one was put there. So I got off the plane. I just went straight to the tunnel. I went straight to the little shrine, just knelt down there, basically said, sorry, sorry about
The
sorry
locals,
about that.
the locals would have presumed you were a Hindu.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that when I did that, because that's the first thing that I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there were 150 news cameras on the valley
Yeah.
on the other side.
So
And so,
is that when you felt that Zen moment, as you said, when you did that, when you prayed, and then I remember in one of the interviews you said that you could feel a Zen moment, during the rescue operation.
I could feel when I arrived there, I felt I was coming to a really special place, and I could feel like the whole when it just whether you were a Hindu or not a Hindu,
Yeah.
so long as you're alive and
Mm.
you've got half a brain,
Mm.
you would feel like it's a pretty special place. And so I just felt like I was in a really special place, and so yeah, I knelt there very quickly because I knew that we had 41 men trapped on the other side, but I did that as the first thing I did before going in the tunnel. And indeed, I would always do thereafter, right up until the rescue. Before I would go into the tunnel, I would always kneel there.
Mm.
And I felt that was the right thing to do. And you might have seen also, once I'd been there, I'd always have flowers in my pocket,
Yeah.
and I would always split my
Yeah.
flowers with the
Yeah.
little temple. And I've still got, look, see, it's still on my arm from when.
Okay. Oh yeah, the thread.
Yeah,
That's a very
I got them.
Yeah. So did the pandits tie you the red thread? Because they have a ceremony, they pray and then they tie that
Yeah.
for good luck and warding you
Yeah.
off from evil and all of that.
Yeah. And I needed all the help I could get. So like, bring it on. After the rescue was complete, I was meant to jump on a helicopter and go back to Delhi.
Yeah.
Because the Prime Minister's office had said, you've got to get on this helicopter. It's going back. Yeah. Otherwise, we can't guarantee how you're going to get back to Delhi because you're up in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Instead, what I did, I just ran away because I felt that having knelt at the temple at the tunnel and really wanted these men to come home and no one to be hurt, to have actually got everyone home and no one got hurt, because there's two things. I can wish that I don't go bald and that I'm a young man. Doesn't mean I'm not going to go bald. Doesn't mean I'm going to be a young man. But I'd wished for 41 men home, and I'd wished for no one to be hurt.
Did you meet their families after you rescued them?
I was with the families when they were rescued.
You were all there.
Yeah, so I was behind them, and
you must have been their god. They must have really.
No, I never. But I didn't tell them.
Yeah,
I suppose they would have known who I was, but I'm quite bashful. I know that may sound odd, but I'm not that person who'd be running around saying I'm the guy from TV. Look at me.
Okay.
No. That's not me. And so I actually was behind them. So when all their children were coming out, I was not in front of them. I was behind. I sat with them, but with my back up against the tunnel wall, and I watched them receive their families. And it was really interesting because all of the rescue people were clapping and cheering, and all the engineers and all the politicians and everything were all so happy. But the families were almost silent.
Yeah.
And I think I've sort of thought a lot about, actually, even at the time, I think these families never thought they'd see their children again.
Yeah.
And actually, it was like they were looking at the dead.
Yeah.
So
it was like they just said hello to death and come back. It's like, very scary. But, your work is so interesting. I want to know, what initially drew you to the field of emergency and disaster management?
So I'm unusual because my background's really odd. So I'm originally a scientist, geologist sort of person, and did my postgrad work up in mining, and so stability of structures and stuff like that. And then I did law, and then I suppose I'm like a lawyer. Well, I'm not suppose. I mean, I really am a real lawyer. But the one event that really, really changed my life was when the 9/11 and the Twin Towers were collapsed. And I was immediately sent to look at the tunnels under the Twin Towers. And so I was quite moved. Moved like a person. Maybe upset's not the right word. Troubled maybe is the better word. That so many people could be killed and by someone who doesn't even know them, and yet they hated them even not knowing them. So I found that really, really quite disturbing, and I was really struck by what a great job the tunnels had done under the 9/11 towers to get so many thousands of people out across the Hudson. And I thought, I think maybe I'll sort of devote my life to helping many people with their lives in a way that no one need know, actually. So I set about, and then ever since then, helping people
Yeah.
underground to be safe. So that's like being safe in Delhi Metro. It's
Yeah.
like being safe in the high speed rail,
Mm.
being safe. So that just became what I did, and I've been really content doing that
Mm.
without anyone really knowing that that's what I do, because I just felt good, like I feel like I'm doing a great job. No one need know,
Yeah.
and so I feel good about that,
Mm.
and I was content to do that, and no one know that that's what I do, except my nerdy friends. Like,
Yeah.
sure, in the disaster area they know, but
Yeah.
there's no public profile to that,
Yeah.
and I was quite happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a long answer to a
That's
simple
okay.
question.
That's okay. But enjoy the limelight. It's okay. People should know what, we don't need to know so much about stars. We really like to know about these kind of interesting works that you do. And I think it's, in a way, it's a lot about awareness and sharing your knowledge and also getting to know about the interesting aspects of your job.
Yeah, well, it's a really great job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a depressing job sometimes because
Yeah.
normally we're dealing with death. But on the other hand, the safest way to go to work in Delhi this morning is
Mm.
on Delhi Metro.
Yeah.
And I've I've had a hand even in Delhi Metro because the standards that are applied for safety in that project,
Mm.
I partly wrote. And
Wow.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I've been doing that. Well, my involvement with the Metro,
Yeah.
it's actually because the standards that are applied
Yeah.
in Delhi Metro, part of them are a thing called NFPA 130,
Mm.
and I'm one of the authors of it.
Mm.
So I don't actually have to be in Delhi to touch the safety of everyone on Delhi Metro
Mm.
because I'm one of the authors
Mm.
of the safety standards which are applied throughout the world.
Tell me about your India experiences, during this tunnel rescue operation, and coming out of it. What are some of the reflections that you sort of had?
Well, I think firstly, uh, I'm absolutely convinced that there's something incredibly special about the Himalaya and this area in which the tunnels are being built. And part of that's just the feeling that I get when I'm there. And it's hard to describe, but it feels like a really special place. And when I would be walking from, say, the tunnel portal area, which is where I'd go into the tunnel and what have you, and then I'd be walking up the mountain because we were doing rescue also from the top of the mountain. So I had to walk up to the top of the mountain. Just the smells, the sound of the air through the trees, the watching the animals running around because there's like all these families of monkeys all checking me out. Like I could almost hear the families going, "Hey, there's a funny one. Look, there's a pink one over there," which was, of course, it was me. And it was like the monkeys would show their little monkeys
Mm.
this funny looking one that's wandered up the hill, and the sunsets were just really beautiful. Sunrises really beautiful. The
Mm.
sound of the air through the trees. Just there's something about the sound in the forest
Yeah.
up in the Himalayas. It's
And also
so yeah.
the very clean air, because unlike the rest of India, the metros, places like that are some of where you get some of the cleanest air, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful air. It's just lovely. So there was that.
Yeah.
I really loved the way in which the people received me.
Yes.
So the local villagers, I wanted flowers, and I would either pick the flowers in the forest
Mm.
or I would drop in at a local village. There was one family particularly that had a really beautiful flower garden, and they would let me take flowers every day. So I would pop in the morning and get some flowers, and I don't know, it might be my orange flower day, or it might be my pink flower day. So I'd get a theme of flower color,
Oh,
and
that's lovely. Yeah.
they'd let me take some flowers, and then I'd put them in my pocket. And if you look at the pictures of me through the whole rescue, always you'll find flowers in my pocket. And then I would go to the little shrine, and I would divide the flowers, some for the shrine, some for me, and then I would go inside and do my job. So I loved the way that the village would just receive me, and they'd be kind to me. I really enjoyed working with all of the experts, because I can't speak Hindi, and so everyone would go, we'd be having a meeting, and people would go, can we talk in English for Arnold? And I'll be like, oh, thanks, guys. And, or actually guys and girls, because we had also the geological survey. We had the chief geological survey person of India there, and she was fantastic. And so it wasn't just all men; it was like men and women.
Yeah.
And I also learned how Indian people make difficult decisions, and that was new for me, because I'm used to a very formal approach to decision making, and so I'm going to say blah blah blah, and then someone else blah blah blah, and we all go around like that. But actually, behind closed doors, and these are the top people of India, right? They're all sitting there, and I'm honoured to be sitting at that table. All of a sudden, everybody are speaking at the same time, and everybody's opinion is important, and it's like, what on earth is happening? And it's like conversations and everywhere, but it's very respectful. But everybody is talking to everybody at the same time, and initially I was like, what is happening? And then but then I realised that this is a legitimate, effective and fast way for a group of professional people to exchange ideas in a high-stress situation and come up with an agreed position. And so I kind of got into the swing of it. It was like I was learning how to dance Bollywood style. It's like, okay, I know how this dance goes. So I just was happy to immerse myself in this different style of complex decision making, and then we get on with it and make decisions, and we do things, and almost always they'd fail, and then we'd come back, and then we'd all do that again. We all talk.
According to you, what was the most challenging part of that rescue mission?
Well, knowing that at any moment the whole thing could collapse.
Yeah.
Like no matter what everyone said, historically we know that this usually ends up in people being killed, and we could see that the tunnel was still collapsing, and there was a big cavity formed up inside the mountain. It was 40 meters, like, what's that, 10, 12-story building had hollowed itself out above, and it was collapsing still. And we could see from the endoscope that we'd push through the pipe that it was collapsing on the side where the men were, and we could see that it was collapsing on the side where we were. So, I mean, everyone has different opinions. Some people say, oh, well, we did the rescue, so therefore it was, how hard can that be? It was really hard. It could have collapsed at any moment. I could have been killed. We all could have been killed. The men could have been killed. And so that was what was hard. Even an earthquake, and you know how often the earthquakes are. We had an earthquake there on the Wednesday, just a little one, and a little earthquake from memory increased the distance we had to burrow through by about 10 metres, because just a little shake and then all more rocks fell down. So that was what I think was the most difficult. I think one of the most important things I did was just to be very clear in the way I expressed the mission, and that was 41 men out, no one hurt, 2. and to take stress as best I could away from it. Come on, we have to do it now. We have to do it now, because I knew that that urgency would kill us and kill them.
How do you think this experience will shape your future work in emergency response and, disaster management?
It's made me even more confident that having the right frame of mind and a focus on human things is essential, and that while you need the engineering, and of course you need great engineering and you need machinery and things, in the end you need people, and you need their confidence, and you need clarity of thought, and that's a very human thing. And upon reflecting, I think the ingredient that I brought to the rescue, I mean, yes, I brought engineering, and yes, I gave advice, and yes, I was seen wandering around doing my engineering things. So that's true. So I did all of that. But I think the really valuable thing I did was I made people calm, and I helped bring confidence, and I helped keep I know it sounds really odd, keep their hearts in the right places. Like, come on, like it's not about egos. Like we've got a job to rescue these young people, and even then, so I'm doing it again. Young people, I don't just say the workers, or I don't just describe them as the miners. I'll describe them as those young men, or those kids, or those innocent even the language that I use, I try and capture the humanness of what is there, and I think that's really, really important. And it made a difference, because in the end, those men are alive because other men crawled in a pipe under a mountain of rock that could have been crushed at any moment if there'd been an earthquake, so they could have been killed, and with their hands took out rocks one by one so that we could slowly get across. I didn't do that because, hey, I'm old and I'm fat. A, I wouldn't even fit in the pipe, and B, like, it's not like I'm like a fit, like I'm just an old guy. So to do that, we needed a whole team of people, and the whole team of people had to be confident, and the whole team of people had to feel like they were doing something special and important, and we did that. So yeah, that's what I think is really important.
I suppose I'm just trying to philosophize this. I suppose
Yeah.
with your job, because you're into, disaster management, saving lives, and the fragility of life, which is why I suppose the humble side, the humaneness also comes out, because, life is fragile, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if I said it well, but I sort of thought about that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, I think the most important point. I really, really, really value life. I can't understand what it is. I don't understand how it's created. I know too well how quickly it's taken.
I suppose we have to constantly remind ourselves that we have to be grateful to be alive, isn't it? Arnold, what are some of the current work that you're working on? It'll be really interesting to know what you're doing next.
Well, I'm working on some new underground standards, so some new sort of regulatory arrangements for the underground, just generally for the world. So we're looking at how do the new sorts of vehicles change the risk of being injured underground, so things like battery fires, hydrogen engines, alternatives. So I'm sort of thinking a lot about those. In India, I'm assisting the government with the reforms for the building of underground tunnels in the Himalayas. So Indian cabinet is being briefed, and there are a range of things that are going to change, and I'm involved with that still as a volunteer, like because I got asked. I'm like, okay, I can help.
It looks like your relationship with India is not going to be over.
No, well, it's more scary than that. What no one knows, but now that you're my new best friend, I can tell you, is my second son is marrying a Pune girl.
Oh,
And so
that's so
I'm
sweet.
coming to a wedding in November in Pune. So
Oh,
I've got to learn how to do the natu natu, like I'm
it is
so
good. So is it going to be a fat Indian wedding?
I don't know, because
Okay.
when I spoke to the family, they said,
Yeah.
how many people will be coming from your side? And I didn't know that they were thinking
Yeah.
I meant to answer like 500 or 1,000 or something. Anyway, so I said, when I was thinking about it, how many people would come from Australia to Pune for the wedding? And I remember I said, like, I don't know, 12? And they're like, what? 12? I'm like, well, like it's quite a long way. And I don't know that you can't have 1,000 people getting on a plane to go to a wedding in Pune. So I'm not sure that they're going to be able to do the fat wedding, because there's like day 3 might be the games day where, all the brides people play
Yeah.
games with all the. Well, it's pretty hard if there's only like 12 of us and there's 500 of them. We're going to lose. It's going to be worse than the cricket. So I don't know if it's going to be a fat wedding. We're still in the arrangement phase at the moment.
Yeah, that's
But,
but I'm sure half the people will come to see you as well, because
well,
now that you're so famous in India, everybody will want a photo of.
well, that's the other thing. I've learned how to do selfies. My God, everywhere I go, anywhere,
Yeah.
like in Melbourne, where I am, where I
Yes.
live,
Yes.
if the Indian community see me here, they're
Yes.
always selfies. It's like, can we have a selfie? I'm like, okay. So it's just selfies everywhere. I had all the young people from the local Hindu temple
Mhm.
came to my house for lunch last weekend. They just
Okay.
wanted to come and hang out.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Okay.
So we had the local temple came and we cooked lunch.
So you
Um,
are sort of being recognized by even the Indian community in Australia, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, yep.
so
And I'm happy to
yes.
do all of that. Other
Yes.
thing is, an Indian artist, asked if he could paint me, and
Oh,
so he believed that it was his destiny to paint me. What he found interesting about me, because he'd seen me on television,
yes.
and he kind of imagined what I'd be like,
Yes.
because I mean that's what he painted. But what he discovered
I'm just
was that,
that's amazing. But let me have a look.
yeah,
Oh yeah, that's so natural, isn't it?
well, that's what he said. He
Amazing.
met me. He goes to me, "You're a really weird kind of guy," and he didn't say weird, but he
Yeah.
goes, "You're just a normal person,
Yeah.
and you don't. Even though you're a barrister and a scientist and an engineer and all of that, you don't
Yeah.
actually even behave like it. You're just like a
Yeah.
normal guy." And he said,
Yeah.
"I really like that. That you're not
Don't have
just
hang-ups. Yeah.
nah, just
Yeah.
and like." I could have easily gone through my life with no one ever noticing what I do, and that would be fine,
Mm,
because actually I wasn't doing anything to be noticed. I
mm,
just really like helping. And so, uh, anyway, but now people know. I think, I think what I have to, because I've had a bit of think about it, because I felt like I was meant to do the rescue. I know
mm,
that sounds odd given I'm a scientist, but
mm.
I felt like I was meant to be in the Himalayas, and I felt like it was like, and I know it's a very much a cliche, but I felt like it was sort of like my destiny to be there.
Yeah.
Um, and so then I've thought, maybe I have to tell the story.
Yes.
Maybe what I have to do is, at a time when the world is full of news of horrible things, maybe my job as a not horrible, like just a normal, not horrible person,
Yeah.
is to actually go, it's okay to be just like natural, and it's okay to be friendly, and it's okay to help your neighbor, and it's okay to help your friends, and it's all right to go and, okay, I risked my life, but it's just, why should that be so unusual? Like, why wouldn't we help each other? And who are these people that make us think that behaving like civilized human beings isn't how we should behave? Of course we should behave like that. Like, that's what humans like. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
So I wonder, and I'm slowly coming, and it's taken me a while because it's been a few months now.
Yeah.
I think that's my job. Maybe that's my new role. I just have to make people feel comfortable.
Growing up in India, we get to see a lot of that behavior. Even people who are officers or somebody, a specialist, or people who are a cut above the rest, do not really mingle and talk. And it's a very hierarchical setup.
Yeah,
And then I come to Australia and realize that it's actually very different here because everyone is so accessible. People
yeah,
are, treated as people. There is no sir and there is no madam,
yeah,
that culture. So
yeah.
it's very different. And I really appreciate that. And when you explain that, I really get it. And I suppose, that's why we like living here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think for India, this rescue says a lot,
Yeah.
because the 41 men who were rescued are from the poorest states. They don't earn very much money.
Yeah.
They're not highly educated.
Yes.
They're just simple guys.
Mm.
And there would have been a time
Mm.
not long ago where no one would care.
Yeah.
And it just would have been 41 men died in a collapse.
Mm.
And it would have got a paragraph, maybe,
Mm.
in a newspaper.
Mm.
And everyone would have went, okay. And no one would have ever inquired as to whether they were alive and died in there of starvation, or whether they drowned in there, or whether they were actually, who cares?
Yeah. And do you
But
think
that's,
the focus on them now in today's age has come because of the presence of the media?
no. I think as a nation,
Mhm.
India is coming of age.
Mm.
I mean, it's about to emerge as one of the great superpowers of the world. So it's becoming wealthy. It's now valuing everybody and can value everybody. Like, it does have the resources to mobilize the army and the highway authority and every machine. It does have an air force that can airlift everything. It really is on the moon, like it's got its space program and what have you. It is developing the highest technology. So I actually see it as a great civilization going through the cycle. Yeah. So it's now, and so I don't think it's, well, and its media is a part of that cycle. So yes, it's part of the media, but the media is also a part of that. I mean, the media that were there were beaming everything live via satellite. It will be being beamed to an Indian satellite that was sitting above India that India will have launched. Like, it's the world's changed.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's very true. Sorry, I was cutting you because I did want answers from you on other topics.
Yeah.
What are some of your best memories of India? I mean, you obviously seem to like India, and there is the spiritual connect. What else?
I absolutely love the vegetarian food up in the Himalayas.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no comparison with vegetarian food I've had anywhere else on the planet. There's something about the spices, the vegetables. They do a really nice, like lentils? A stir fry.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Lentils as well. Yeah.
Lentils are good. I'm not a big fan of lentils, I've got to say.
Okay.
Like I know
Okay.
that but I love the veggies and the spices and things. I mean, I eat the lentils, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I thought the lentils were hugely better. They were lovely, but
Yeah. Yeah.
so I really enjoy
Yeah.
I really up in the Himalayas, I
Yeah.
really enjoy the spirit and character of the local people who are just like the family that let me take flowers from their garden.
Yeah.
Just so nice, and I really enjoy that. And I see the poverty in the cities, say in Mumbai, when you're going through like and you're actually touching the extreme poverty there.
Yeah.
I find that really difficult.
Yes. And you notice that as soon as you land, there's that slums,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And it's not. I mean, it's not just India. I mean, I was in Africa week
Yes.
before last,
It's
and
similar.
there was extreme poverty there as well.
Mm.
But I think that's because of my love of humans, and so in the eyes of the people, even in poverty, I see such potential. But
Mm.
if you can't feed yourself and you haven't got access to medication and education and clean water, you're pretty doomed. And so, yeah, I think I find that difficult.
How are you reconciling to your relatively low profile away from the cameras now?
I think that life is done. So I don't think I can go back. And so I just have to embrace that things have changed. And the challenge for me is I think the reason people like chatting to me is because I'm not a celebrity and I don't behave like a celebrity. And I'm very keen that whatever that is that people find interesting about me doesn't change. I think it's good that you're the Indian sun because
Yeah.
I'm into the sun. Like, obviously, I built a big sun machine here. So,
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you so much for opening up so much to us. You've spoken a lot.
fine.
It was lovely. And thank you so much for your time with the Indian Sun.